Potomac Bead Company, and today I am going to be doing a pendant featuring our Ava beads here and also the Arcos bead. And the pendant I'm calling the Roswell Pendant. It kind of has that spaceship kind of look to it. We're going to be making this as a pendant. If you want to, you can make it then as a bracelet and components. You can also take this component, make it and wear it as earrings. It's kind of up to you what you want to do once you start. If you need any of the components and the materials for this Roswell pendant, on the left-hand side of the screen here, we'll do a little drop down with links to the website where you can go ahead and order from me online, or you can use that to help make a list to gather up what you have and to check out your local Potomac Bead Company store as well. If you don't see those little pop-ups, sometimes on the mobiles and stuff, it won't give you those. Look below the video in the description of the video. There we always put in the kind of show more underneath the video, if you tap down, the links to all of these different products as well. So for this Roswell pendant, you're going to be using 3 of the Ava beads and 3 of the Arcos beads. If you haven't used either of those before, the Ava bead is our Potomac Bead Company exclusive, and it has 3 holes, 1 going through the top and then 1 through each leg. Likewise, the Arcos bead, which is a bead par puca or for puca, has 3 holes as well. It kind of looks like a piece of macaroni, especially in this color, and a hole goes through each side as well as through the middle. For the Ava bead, I'm going to be using the jet bronze color, and I used the metallic purple color here in my example. For the Arcos bead, I'm using the pastel amber. And again, you just need 3 of those, and then I use the crystal Labrador Fool in the example here. In the middle of the pendant is a 10mm Potomac crystal Rivoli, and here is a silver-backed crystal Rivoli, and here I am using the magic orchid color of the Rivoli, which is kind of a nice contrast to the different colors. Likewise, I am going to be using a tassel on this and hanging the tassel down, making a little loop at the top so that way I can attach it to chain and wear it as a longer necklace rather than just a shorter pendant. So that's kind of optional. The tassel that I'm going to be using is the Wineberry multicolored tassel to kind of match with all of the different colors here. For my 15 seed beads, which go around the outer edge and hold in the crystal in the middle, I'm going to be using the transparent dyed wine color, and that's a Miyuki brand seed bead. Also in the Miyuki brand, I am going to be using the 8O in the silver lined dark Topaz AB, which is a great color, has a ton of kind of contrasting colors to it. Here in the example, also I just kind of stuck with some purple colors using the light purple lined, and then the same with the 8O kind of going all purple as well. So I'm going with the browns and the golden colors here in my example. So again, you need 3 Arcos, 3 Avas, and then 15 O's and 8O seed beads. In addition to that, for the middle, if you want to do the pendant portion in the middle, or you can keep it open, you're going to need a 10mm Potomac crystal Rivoli. Also, I'm going to be adding a tassel, so I thought I would put that out there for you guys. Beading needle wise, you want a 10 or 11 beading needle. I'm going to be using the Pony brand beading needle in a size, 11 or 12. I'm going to be using the Pony brand in the 12. In addition to that, I am stringing the whole thing together with my green wildfire beading thread in .006. And I'm going to cut about 4.5 feet off the thread in order to work through the whole project. Handy tools to have available are a thread zap or thread zap 2, thread zap ultra, cord cutter. It's kind of up to you what material or what kind of thread burner you want to use. This is the one that I have here on hand, so it's the thread zap 2. In addition to the thread zap, I like to have on hand a needle nose or a bent nose pliers to flatten out the end of the thread to make it easier to thread my needle. I am working on a nice kind of cottony surface that's going to make it easier to pick up the beads, see the beads, and work with them. I usually work on my bead on it boards and kind of transport everything around as I'm working on my designs when I'm not underneath the camera like this. So to get started, I want to go ahead and pour out little piles of all of my beads. You can kind of put your crystal to the side for now, your tassel to the side for now, and get about 4 feet of beading thread onto one of your needles. So to get started, I have my size 12 needle here. And what we're going to do is start by adding our Avas and our Arcos. And then we're going to go back and actually add in the additional beads, kind of to capture our crystal Rivoli. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and pick up one of my Ava beads and sew through one of the legs of the Ava beads, pulling the thread through, and leaving myself just about a 2-inch tail that I'm going to hold on to. When I'm in between the Ava and the Arcos, I add a 15-0 seed bead, and I'm going to go through the first hole of the Arcos when it's sitting in an arch shape, going through the first hole, coming out the top of that rainbow. If you want to, you could also put on a stop bead and have that work for you too. I'm going to then add 3 of my 15s onto my needle and 1 of my 8/0 seed beads. I'm going to take the needle and thread down the middle hole of the Arcos, which is the next hole to the right. From there, when I'm out the base of the Arcos, what I want to do, I'm out that base middle hole, I'm going to add an 8/0 followed by a 15. From there, I'm going to go back up through the 8/0, the Arcos, and the 8/0 again. So I'm through the 8/0, the Arcos bead, and the 8/0 sitting right on top. That's going to kind of lock that in place there. And also when you come out the top of the 8/0, it makes that 8/0 sit right on top of the Arcos, which is what we want. We don't want it sitting to the side. We want the hole sitting parallel to the hole of the Arcos bead. Coming out then, that 8/0 at the top, add 3 more 15s and go down through the third hole of the Arcos. So it's kind of like a building block there. You can see that makes kind of that little almost plateau look right above the Arcos bead. I'm going to then add a 15 and add my next Ava bead. To add the next Ava bead, I'm going to pick it up so that it's facing like an A, and I'm going to sew into the middle of the A through one of those baseline holes. When I'm through there, I'm going to go ahead and add 2 15s, and I want you to pick up an 8, then 2 15s. Let those drop down, and that's going to pretty much fill the space exactly between the base hole of the Avas, and I'm going to sew through towards the next hole. So I'm going straight across that Ava bead. And give a nice little tight pull. Now it's time to get my next Arcos bead in place. Again, a 15/0 goes on before the Arcos. I'm going to go through the Arcos so that I'm going through one of these sides, coming out the top like it would be a rainbow. When I'm out the top of the Arcos bead there, what I'm going to do is add my 3 15s and 1 8. Sew then through the middle hole of the Arcos bead, down towards the base of it. Once I have that there, go ahead and add another 8 and a 15. To hold the Arcos in place then, so back up through the 8, the Arcos, And when you get to that top, sew through the 8 as well that you put on before going through that base line, that middle line rather. Give a nice tight pull and make sure to tighten up so you don't see any extra thread exposed whatsoever. That gets our second Arcos in place, and then add 3 more 15s and come down the final hole of that Arcos bead. When I'm out that final hole of the Arcos bead, I add another 15-0, because remember I always add a 15 before I add the Arcos and the Avas to separate them out. Go ahead and add your next Ava through one of the base lines towards the middle. When you get that in place, then you're going to add 2 15s. 3 really want to go on. 2 15s and 8 and 2 15s. Thread and needle then goes through the second hole of that same Ava along the bottom. And tight pull and kind of get that in place. Time for the last Arcos bead. Pattern's the same. 15 on through one of the sides of the Arcos, coming out towards the top. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same kind of function that I'm doing, but keep in mind that we're going to come back to this last Arcos here and add a loop to hold our tassel eventually. So it's going to look the same now, but eventually it'll hold the tassel. If you don't want to do a tassel, you'll ignore it when we get to that point. After you're through that side hole of the Arcos, 3 15s, 1 8, in towards the center of the Arcos through the middle hole, add an 8 and a 15 to catch it and hold it in place. Thread and needle then goes back up through the 8 and back up through the Arcos and back up through the other 8. So that 15-0 is used as an anchor the whole way for those 8 OC beads. When you're at the top, I'll go 3 15s and down through the last hole of the third Arcos bead. When you're down that last hole, 15-0 goes on. So in towards the Ava bead, which was the starting bead. When you're out that center hole of that Ava bead, go ahead and add your 15s, 8, and 2 15s. Now I'm at the point where I am actually done the formation and I'm back to my stop bead, or to my starter thread rather. And what I'm going to do is actually tie these 2 threads together. I'm going to take that starter thread and push it to the back here, where I have the other thread, getting them to the same side, making sure the beads are in place, tightening it up, tightening this one up, and then tying those together. Like I said, if you want to, you can do a stop bead if that's more comfortable for you. I just want to make sure before I do a nice second knot that I don't see a lot of extra thread exposed. Once you tie that knot, you have your fun little triangle formation there. And I have 2 knots. I'm going to go ahead and tie a third. So when you're coming out the top of the Arcos bead here on the side, what we want to do actually is get back to our 8 OC bead that sits between our Ava beads. This is the way that we're going to link in our crystal. We're going to be building the back of the crystal first in that little netting fashion, and then we'll go ahead and bring it around to the front. To get over to that 8-0, I'm going to simply retrace my thread going up through all the 15s that sit right at the top of this Arcos bead. So I'm going through the 3 on the side, as well as the 4 that we added on the top, down the 3 on the side, tracing the whole way there along the top. Also down through the Arcos bead, through the 15-0 that's used to separate the Arcos and the Ava, and through the Arcos bead, and then out through the 8-0 seed bead, right in the middle. This is why I'm using a size 12 needle, because you do go back through those 15-0s. Size 10 fits. I believe I made this one at the Tucson Gem and Jewelry Show when we were kind of in between customers, and I used a tulip size 11 needle, I believe, when I was working with this, or maybe I used a 10. A 10 will work, it just gets a little bit tighter. So now we are out the 8-0 seed bead, and it is our opportunity to build our back for our actual pendant to sit inside. To build the back, we'll kind of flip this one over so you can see, we're creating a netting that's going to be attached to all of the 8-0 seed beads sitting between the Arcos. Originally, we're going to pick up, we're going to be picking up the 15-0s here and creating a line of 15-0s. For the 15-0s, we're going to be picking up 10 15s between each 8-0. So go ahead and add to your needle 10 15s. And once you have your 10 15s on your needle, I want you to go ahead and sew in to the next 8-0 rather than getting your thread in a knot. Let's go ahead and let those drop down, those 10 15s, and then sew through the next 8. I should have mentioned that we are actually done our 8-0 seed beads. I'm going to use one at the top here to make my loop with my 8-0s, but other than that, you're done. So you can see it's more seed beads than actually kind of fit right in there. You can see it already wants to peak. Kind of flipping the pendant around. It's time again to grab 8 15s, or I'm sorry, 10 15s, and sew into the 8. I've got my 10 on my needle. I'm going to hop over to the next 8-0 between the Ava bead and sew through that one. When I'm sewing through the 8-0 near the Ava beads too, you want to make sure that you're only sewing through the 8-0. Sometimes it wants to go through the 15-0 beside it, but just through the 8. That's our second group of 10. Now we're going to have one more group of 10. All right, so we've got our second group of 10 here. I'm going to sew back through the original 8 that my thread was coming out of, just through that 8 to begin with, and out. You can see, like I said, it kind of sits a little funky because those seed beads, there's more than enough there. We're going to use that to our advantage because the Rivolis have a point to them and are graduated. We need basically to make a little basket for it to sit inside of. So we're back out through that original 8. And what I'm going to do is take my thread and needle and go through 6 of the original 10 15s that I just added. After you're through 6, bring your needle out. And we're going to go ahead and add more of our seed beads here to catch basically onto that little row. I'm going to go ahead and add 5 15s on my needle. I'm scooting over to the next grouping of 10 between the 2 8-0s here, and I'm going to sew through beads 5 and 6. So you can count over 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to sew through beads 5 and 6 and sew out. What that's going to do is leave 4 beads on either side of that original kind of netting piece. Spinning the pendant around then, I'm going to add 5 more 15s. Go over to the next grouping, that next line of 10. Count again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sew through 5 and 6. And that creates another part of that netting. You can see kind of rise there. I have 5 more 15s to grab. I'm going to come over to that original line, count over again to your 5th bead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to sew through 5 and 6, which will bring me out right next to the start of that original 5 that we just added in. Of course, this one wants to be stubborn. There we go. And go ahead and pull. When you pull that nice and tight then, you're going to notice that it really kind of pulls that into that kind of triangular netting. When you flip it over, it works as a basket for us to put in our crystal. So the crystal is going to sit right in the base basket that we just created. So I'll flip it over here so you can see it. You can see that little crystal sit right in. To tighten it up and to make that basket weave at the back just a little bit tighter, what I'm going to do is sew around all of these 5 beads that I just added, as well as through those 2 beads 5 and 6 from the base row. So what I'm doing is reinforcing the back of the crystal here and just putting one more line through, which is going to tighten that up. So we're basically tightening up the back of it by reinforcing it. Once I have it reinforced and I am through 2 times with my thread through all those 15s, I actually get to jump now to the front and do the front of the pendant here that my crystal is going to sit inside. So at this point the back is done and we're going to get ready to flip over and add our bling. And what I did to get to the front was I took my thread and needle here that was at the back and just went right along the back up through those original kind of 4 beads along the side here and went and came out one of the 8 O's right below the Ava beads. That creates my little basket that we're going to sit in, and I'm going to connect and create another triangle shape right above that crystal. To do so, kind of dump the crystal out for now, and we're going to add 6 of our 15 O's between each of our 8 OC beads. So adding to my needle, I'm going to pick up 6 15s and sew from one 8-0 over to the next 8-0 in the same line basically that the thread is going. So I'm not going to jump to that one on this side. The thread is coming out this 8-0 towards the top here. We're going to go in towards the 8-0 at the top. So 6 seed beads got added. I'm going to add 6 more. Sew into the next 8-0 around in a circle. And at this point here now, I'm going to get ready. Before pulling tight, you can still see a little bit of my thread. I'm going to go ahead and add my crystal in and then give a nice little tug. You can probably guess what's happening next. We're going to add 6 more 15s. And once those 6 15s are added, go back into the original 8 OC bead here and out. I'm pushing with my thumb, the crystal down a little bit, so that way it does sit recessed into that basket. And it really is with this magic orchid, It really is kind of reversible. You could wear it on either side. This gives you more that kind of pentagram-ish look with the netting, and then this side keeps it nice and simple with that play on the constant triangles here. I'm going to reinforce the front now by going back through those 6 15s that got added, as well as through the 8. One more time. And sew around that whole center section, just like we did along the back. It helps to reinforce and kind of pull those threads in tighter and get a tighter fit for that crystal. If you wanted to, you could do this probably with another size of crystal, not to limit you, but you'd have to play around. A 12 may fit in it if you're looking for something bigger than a 10. Anything bigger than that, you're going to have to change your spacing a little bit. So I'm going around one more time. And where I want to end is actually at the top of the very top Ava bead. So I'm going to spin around till I'm there, because that is where I'm going to add my loop of my seed beads for my thread then, or my chain to sit in. You can use any chain, or you could use a cording. You can make a seed beaded necklace for this to hang on. That's kind of up to you. I'm just going to grab some random Italian plaited chain that I have and go with that. So once I get to the top of that Ava bead, and I know it's the top because it's going to sit right above the tassel if you're adding a tassel, or if you're doing earrings, it would go right at the top of those. If you do have no tassel at the bottom and you want it to just be the easy kind of a round design, you can still do this loop at the top of the Arcos bead, so that way you have something for your pendant to hang on. So I'm out the 8/0 right above the tassel. I'm going to go through those side 15/0s and out through the side of the Ava bead. You may need to do these steps one at a time, going through the 15 and the Ava to get out on the side there. Once I'm out the side of that Ava bead, I'm going to take my thread and needle up through the 15 O's there on the side. You can see your fun little pendant there. And here at the top is where I'm going to add my loop. Again, remember I said I'm adding one of my 8 O's on. I'm going to do that somewhat in the same fashion with that same idea of kind of going through the top. So to do that, go ahead and put on 3 15s, 1 8. Then we're going to make our loop, excuse me, out of 15/0 seed beads. So the loop size is going to depend on what size chain you're doing. My chain's not going to be any bigger than my tassel here. I'm going to use a little bit of a finer chain. So I'm just picking up about the same 10 or 11 beads onto my needle. Make sure that'll make me a nice little loop here. Add a couple more. I've got more, about 16 on now. I'm going to take the thread and needle now and go down through that 8/0 seed bead. You can see that makes a little loop at the top of your pendant. After the 8/0, 3 more 15s get added on. And I'm going to go through the top hole of the Ava bead and out the other side. You can see that's going to sit really nicely right above. It has a nice look to it. I'm going to use this opportunity to reinforce that loop. So we're going to go, we're out the side of the Ava here. We're going to go up through those 3 seed beads that I just added, up through the 8/0 and out through all of those 15/0 seed beads again, and down the other side. When I come down the 8, you're going to remember which side you need to go to because it's going to look a little bit disconnected because we didn't connect those 3 beads to the original 5 on the side. We went through the ava. So this time we're going to go down through those 3 beads as well as the 5 on the side of the ava. And that'll pull that right on the top. Now what we're going to do is get our thread here back towards our starter thread and just tie the knot off together. To do so, I'm going to run my thread right along the ava bead, going through the ava, out through the center here, up through the netting, and down to tie off the end of my threads so that my 2 threads are knotted together. Whenever you tie your threads off, you want to do it towards the back of the project. You can see I have the back side kind of exposed here and facing up. That way the knot is not, you won't see it from the front. Once I have my 2 knots in there, right over left and left over right, to do that little square knot, grab your thread burner and simply burn your edges or your thread ends down and off, and then you're going to take those thread ends, and I'm going to simply take my thread burner and burn them into a nice little ball on each end. What that's going to do is prevent the knot from coming apart. And there you have your fun little pendant here. So your pendant is kind of added to the funness with that tassel on the end. You can put the chain on it. You can, if you want to, wear it as an earring. They'd be really fun earrings with a short tassel, or you could do a little drop bead down as well. You can really change up the design by the colors that you use, whether or not you use kind of the brighter colors, darker colors here, and what kind of chain you attach it to. Again, if you need any of these materials to do this fun Roswell pendant, you can go back to the beginning of the video to the little drop-down menu. If you don't have the drop-down menu on the side, never fear, right underneath the video, there is always the little description of what the video is about. Hit that little show more button right below there. Click on it and it'll give you links to all of these different materials as well. If you need the Avas or the Arcos or the 11s, 15s, and so forth, and the tassel and all of that good stuff as well. We'll also put a link there for the Italian chain, since I'll take a picture of them on the chain so that way you guys can see those at the header of the video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to stay connected with us even more, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel to get regular updates from us when we put out videos for you on different products that we're starting to carry, what's new, what's going on, as well as patterns like these also. You can also stay connected with us by visiting us at PotomacBeads.com, shopping online there with me, and letting us get out those great products to you. Also checking out some of the other resources we have there as well. Lastly, if you really want to stay connected with us, you can join our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Interact with a great group of people there that love the passion or love the art, have a passion for it, have great designs, whether or not it's mixed media or wire working or seed beading or bead weaving, all of those fun things as well. You can also just check out our regular Facebook page too. We post there and on Instagram and do all that good social media stuff too. As always, everybody, thank you so much for watching this fun Roswell pendant. Have fun creating, and again, join me later on. Subscribe to this YouTube channel so that way you can get regular updates and more videos from me. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.